Hello, hello. This is the Feelings Pod. I'm Sabrina Amina, your host. And today's episode is all about fear. Fear has been coming up pretty regularly for me lately in the form of anxiety. So, what is anxiety if not just fears about our past or future, or I think anxiety is actually more our fears of the future rather than the past. We can worry about the past, but not sure we're actively fearing what's already happened. Fear feels more anticipatory of whatever event is to come. I have fear about a lot of things. I think my fear is very similar to fears of other humans, fear for. But thankfully, I don't often fear for my safety. I think as a woman, we are in a position where we more frequently fear for our safety in public spaces or entering new places or meeting new people. Um, but for the most part, I'm pretty blessed and privileged to live in a place and work in a place where I feel uh, pretty safe for the most part. Fear maybe more often for me comes up in worries about what's to come and, worries about my job or my child or um, anticipating a difficult conversation. Trying something new is a place where fear comes up. But that's a good kind of fear, I think, that I've been exploring more of lately. Uh, Sometimes for me, doing new things, going to new places, behavior changes that feel significant definitely bring up fear, but fear that also kind of is adjacent to excitement. So yeah, I've been getting curious about my fears and wondering, is this something I really need to be fearful of? Uh, if you've ever explored A Course in Miracles, there's an interesting um, take on fear. And basically, when we're in a state of fear, it's because uh, we've kind of succumbed to an illusion of something, um, which is an interesting perspective. I'm not sure I entirely agree or disagree with it, but it's interesting to think about. Um, that when you're in a state of like being one with the self or at ease or at peace, when you feel expansive, like fear does not exist, right? When you're in that state. However, fear comes up when we're creating stories in our minds, right? We have the illusion of something that doesn't exist. So it is actually kind of a comforting way to look at fear. If you're able to kind of observe it, like create a bit of distance from it and say, is this thing that I'm afraid of, is it, you know, am I creating a story and maybe experiencing this fear unnecessarily? Um, I had a difficult conversation today with my boss, and I was really worried about it. I was super scared. Um, I did my best to just be present with it, something I find that's really helpful when I'm in a fear state is imagining the worst case scenario, which, can either work for or against you, because sometimes imagining a worst case scenario can really take you into overdrive. But it's helpful if you imagine the solution and ask yourself, so if this were to happen, and then what? What would I do? Is this something that I could handle? Is this something that I would be able to navigate? And yes, 9 times out of 10, I'm able to say, yeah, that's definitely something I can handle. It's not an ideal situation, but I can do it. I can do this hard thing that I'm in fearful anticipation of. And I find that's a really helpful way to navigate my fear, is tapping into my the trust I have in myself, remembering that I'm capable, that I have the strength to navigate whatever challenges come my way, remembering that I've been able to navigate everything that's come my way up to this point. Um, I try to also be really aware of when my fears are stopping me from growing. I recently took a trip to California, and I was so scared to take this trip, and I couldn't really figure out why, because California is one of my favorite places to visit and travel to. Um, it's it was just simply out of my routine. I don't regularly travel um, during the winter months. It was something outside of the norm for me. And in my fearful mind, in my fearful state, I considered, oh, I shouldn't do this. I need to cancel this. Or I was kind of thinking of reasons why I shouldn't go. And then I was like, wait a minute. That's, you know, taking a step back from it, observing the fear and kind of questioning it. And um, I did end up going. And even after I was in San Francisco, I um, was going to take a drive to another part of the state for a retreat. And once again, fear came up. I was fearful of driving so far out of the city. It was like a 4-hour drive. I said, oh, maybe I should just stay put and stay here and not go to the retreat that I flew across the country for. Again, that was my fear coming up. And I said, well, I came out here for a reason. Like, why would I not do this? And again, just noticing and observing the fear and working through it. I think it's so I was having a conversation with my therapist about it, and he framed it so beautifully. He said, "Wow, you had an entire hero's journey in the span of a weekend." And I was like, "Huh, you know what? I think you're right." And actually, I was worried about the weather, because the weather report. I was driving into the mountains, like near Reno and Lake Tahoe, not Tahoe, like yeah, like around Tahoe area. And there was a report about the snow coming in. I was like, no, I can't go. I'm not going to be able to like get out of this. Get out. I won't be able to make my flight back. I'll miss my flight. And once again, and thankfully, I was surrounded by like really wonderful humans during this experience who, you know, witnessed me in my state of fear and anxiousness. I made it to the retreat center and my friends there. I was planning to leave early. I was going to just to make sure that I wouldn't miss my flight. And my friends there were like, no, don't, stay for the weekend. This was your plan. You flew all the way across the country. Like, don't, you don't have to leave. The weather is not going to be that bad. Like, it's such a gift when you have friends you can co-regulate with. Co-regulate is a concept I learned from Luis Mojica in one of his courses. If you haven't heard of him, I highly recommend you check out his podcast called Holistic Life Navigation, or he's on Instagram under the same name. So yeah, I learned about co-regulation with Luis, and basically being able to settle your nervous system in relation with another being, another object, relating to your surroundings, your physical surroundings, and kind of settling. And I was fortunate enough to be around some really beautiful humans who helped me regulate the fear, observe it, witness it, be with it, acknowledge it, and ultimately, move through it. I was able to, I was able to stay. And yes, the weather was not great on my drive back. It was a much longer trip back to San Francisco than I had anticipated. At one point, I was really worried I was going to get stuck in the snow, but I got through it. I managed. I was fine. I'm a great driver. I have good instincts, and I can handle myself. And reminding myself that that is the case is what always helps me through fear. Yeah. I think there have definitely been times in my life where fear has kept me from doing things that I want to do. The fear of the unknown, the fear of change. And I feel really grateful to just be in a season of life where I'm very much fear facing. I don't really believe in being fearless. I don't think any of us are fearless, unless we're, have some kind of serious psychological challenges. We all have our fears, and we'll never be without them. Our fears, keep us safe in a lot of ways. But when we're able to face those fears, we grow and expand and are able to see what we're capable of. So in a way, fear is a gift. I am certainly of the opinion that all of our emotions are a gift in one way or another, especially the difficult ones. Actually, especially the great ones, especially the uplifting ones, especially the joyful ones. When the gift is also just like being able to be fully present to them, to listen to them, to kind of get to the heart of what is this emotion trying to communicate? What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? Yeah. So I think what I'll leave you with is, if you are in a space or moment where fear is coming up, use that question. Like, ask yourself, like, what is this fear? And if my fear is about something that's going to occur, is this event something that I'll be able to handle? Is it something that I'd be able to overcome? Is it something I'd be able to manage? And probably for you too, 9 times out of 10, the answer will be yes. And if the answer is no, it's probably something that's life-threatening and you shouldn't be doing anyway. Yeah. So let's get into a short little practice. Just a box breath. We'll do 5 deep breaths to settle this nervous system. Find a comfortable seat. You can sit, you can lie down. Since it's such a short practice, maybe you'll just want to sit and put aside any distractions and let the eyes close and start tuning into the breath. Once you feel connected to your breath, start to deepen it a little bit. Take a deep breath in to the count of 5. Pause at the top of your breath. And exhale to the count of 7. Pause at the bottom of the breath. Take a deep breath in. Pause at the top of the breath. Breathe out. And pause. Once again, take a deep breath in. Pause. And exhale. Pause at the bottom of the breath. Take another deep breath in. Pause at the top of the breath. And let it go. And take one more deep breath in to the count of 5. Pause at the top of the breath. And exhale to the count of 7. Pause at the bottom of the breath. And when you're ready, open the eyes, come back to the room, and offer yourself a little bit of love, gratitude, and appreciation. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening.